Hey folks, welcome along to another video tutorial here in Microsoft MakeCode Arcade. What we will be doing in today's video tutorial is learning how to create a very simple two-player game. I'll give you a demo of what that is going to look like right now. So put simply, we have player 1 here as the fish, player 2 as the shark, and your job is to race to the finish line. First one to get there will be crowned the champion, and you've got to avoid this little obstacle bouncing around in the middle of the page as well, otherwise you will be sent back a few positions. Now to have your race, you need to press the space bar or the A key over here on your gamepad to move the fish. So you've got to time your run past that ball, and you've also got the right arrow or the letter D on your keyboard controlling the shark. Okay, now the shark's a little bit bigger than the fish, so it can be a bit hard for the shark to get through. We might have to reduce his size to make it a little bit fairer. So as you saw just then, when the ball hits the shark, it sends him back about 20 spaces. Same with the fish. Okay, so I'll just get that fish over the finish line and show you what happens when we end the game. Okay, so you hit the finish line and the message will come up telling you which player won, whether it's the fish or the shark. And that's it. So it is a fairly simple game. Definitely plenty of room for you to add your own elements to the game. Okay, but let's just get started on creating this simple part of the game first of all. So let's jump over to the arcade.makecode.com website. And when it loads, make sure you sign in and then click on the orange button in the top left to create a brand new project. Okay, give your project a name like, I don't know, shark versus fish or two-player race or something like that. And once you're in there, we're going to start like we always start by setting up a background color. So head off to your scene drawer here and grab a background color that resembles the ocean. So just a dark blue I think will look good for that. Once you've got your background in, we can start to bring in the sprites. So let's start by bringing in a new sprite, which we'll rename to fish. And it's going to have the look from our gallery here as one of these fish here. Don't forget to reverse it or flip it horizontally there so it's facing the right hand side of the page. And the kind, it is a player, but because we're going to have two players here, I'm going to rename that. Actually, I can't rename that kind. I'll have to add a new kind of sprite in. I might call it P1 because it's going to be player 1. Okay, now once we have got the fish in, we need to put it into its start position. So go to the sprites drawer again, and we're going to set the fish position to. We're going to look at the coordinates here. Now remember, your coordinates, or your game screen starts at 0, 0 in the top left-hand corner. So the x-axis and the y-axis are both set to 0 when you're in the top left corner of the game screen. As you come down the page and across the page, those numbers are both going to get bigger. So as you move across the page, the x value gets bigger. As you come down the page, the y value gets bigger. Okay, so what we're going to do is come across a little bit from the left edge of the page, about 20 pixels. Okay, and we're going to go down a similar amount. We might go a little bit bigger, 25. And in a moment you'll see your fish move up to its start position. I think that's a good area to start the race in. Last thing we want to do to this fish is just animate it. Okay, so go to your animation drawer and bring out the first block of code. We're going to animate the fish sprites, and the frames we're going to use come straight from the gallery there. On the second row you've got a fish there facing to the right. That is animated. The interval, I'll try around 100 milliseconds just to see how it looks and make sure the loop is turned on. And then just look at your preview window. If you think he's moving fast enough, leave it as is. If you want him to go faster, then change that number. Okay, the lower you go, the faster he's going to move. So I think 75 looks pretty good. So I'm going to go with a 75 millisecond interval between the animation pictures there. Alright, so fish looks good. Let's get the shark in there now, exactly the same way. So we're going to bring out this first block of code and we're going to make a new variable here. Actually, we'll just rename the variable to shark. Now the sprite is going to be one of the shark pictures. If you just scroll down, you'll see the sharks here. Just grab the first one and flip it horizontally by pressing that little triangle up the top there. Click on done and change the kind to add a new kind of sprite, and we'll call it P2. Whoops. It's going to be player 2. Alright, now as I mentioned before, the shark's a little bit big compared to the fish, which makes it a little bit unfair. It's going to be a bit trickier for the shark to get past our obstacle. So if you would like, you don't have to, you can go to your sprites there, straight to the bottom and grab that last block of code. That will set the scale of the shark to something. Let's go 0.75 there, which will make it 3/4 of its original size. Okay, it still looks like a baby shark when you make it that big, but let's just roll with it. It's going to make it a little bit fairer as they race across the screen. Next thing we'll do is go back to the sprites drawer and bring out the one that sets its position, so the start position for the shark. Let's go with, we'll go with 20 again for the x-axis, and for the y-axis we'll try 90. So that just moves it down towards the bottom half of the game screen. Let's have a look over here. They seem to be starting almost in line there, so I'm pretty happy with that. Let's roll with it. You can adjust those numbers if you want to move it a little bit, but I think it's fine. We'll then go to the animation drawer, bring out that first block of animation code, and we're going to animate the shark this time. The frames we're going to use come from the gallery. You'll see there's a few shark animations. Just grab this one facing to the right where he's wagging his little tail. The interval will be same as the fish, 75 milliseconds. And the loop's going to be turned on, just so it repeats itself over and over again. And there you have it. You've got your start position set up for the fish and the shark, and they're both animated, so they definitely look at the part. So that's that section done. What we will do now is get the shark and the fish moving. Okay, so we need to go to the controller drawer for this and grab the second block of code. And on button A pressed, that's the A on the gamepad here, we're going to make our fish move. So in the sprites drawer, okay, what I'm looking for is the change sprite. Okay, I'm going to change not the shark, I'm going to change the fish's X value by 1.5 pixels every time we push that A button or press the space bar. It's the same thing. Okay, we're going to do that again, but this time we're going to change up the A button being pressed to the right arrow key being pressed. And this time, instead of moving the fish, we are going to change the shark's position. And we're going to change it the exact same amount, 1.5 pixels every time it is pressed. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's go and test this out. So in the game screen over here, press the spacebar a few times. Press the A key on the keypad here, and you see your fish is just slowly moving across the screen. Shark, you need to press the right arrow key or the D key on your keyboard. Okay, and the shark's moving along the page as well. If you feel that's too slow, you can always turn this number up, but I wouldn't go too high. If you go to like 5, for example, it's going to be too far. I'll just do it for the fish and show you. So if I press the space bar now, you can see how the fish jumps quite a long way when you have it set to 5. So I think 1.5, maybe 2 at the very most, would be a good speed to be moving your fish and shark along the page when those buttons are pressed. Alright, so we've got those moving. It's definitely now a 2-player game. Next thing I want to do is get a finish line in. Now to do the finish line we have to draw it ourselves, and it goes in this on start section. So let's set this sprite and put it down the bottom here. We'll rename the variable to finish, and we're going to change the kind of sprite here to another new one. We'll call it finish. Alright, we're going to make our own sprite here. Now, if we were to draw it into this little box here now, it would end up a really small size and it wouldn't fill up the game screen. But what I want is a line, like a finish line that goes the entire length of the game screen. So what we need to do is change the size of our sprite here. We're going to the bottom left corner where you've got these two numbers. 16 by 16 pixels at the moment. What I want you to do is just change that second 16 to 120. And when you press enter, you'll see that your screen changes into quite a large looking sprite. I'll then get you to grab the line tool, choose 2 colors that you think might work well together. I'm going to go with these 2 warm colors of orange and yellow. And somewhere in the middle here, might even make my squares a little bit bigger. You can make yourself a finish line. Now, it can be a bit iffy, this line tool, especially if you don't get it right. So I'm going to try it. As soon as you go outside of the page, it sets the shape in position. You've got to be very careful. Make sure it goes straight down. Okay, there's one. I'm going to put a yellow one in now. Might even, I was going to overlap it. Yeah, I might overlap it just by one little bit. And then I'll go back to orange for this last one. Just pull it straight down the page. Take your time. Then I'll go transparent just to trim off a little bit of that one so it matches the other orange one. There we go. Not completely in the center of the page, but I think that's near enough. You could always probably select that and just nudge it across a little bit if you wanted to get it centered. There we go. That's the finish line. Okay, yours can look a little bit different. That's fine. You can use different colors. You can use skinnier lines, whatever you want to do. But that's my finish line. So I'll click on done. And in a moment, we should see a finish line appear on the page. There we go. Not in the best position just yet, but that looks pretty good to me. So what we'll do now is just go to our sprites drawer and change that position like we did with the shark and the fish. Scroll down a bit here. Now the position we want on the x-axis, we'll go a fair way across, about 155 for the x-axis, and we'll set the y to, actually the y is fine as it is, so we'll leave the y as it is. See where that ends up. Might go a little bit too far here. Oh, I've got it set to shark. I need it to be finish. Let's press play and see what happens. Okay, so it has moved across, and yes, I will need to change the y-axis in the end. So I know that's about halfway down the page at the moment, and we know the page is about 120 pixels from top to bottom, so if I set this second number here to 60, that should move it halfway down the page, and it should be in the right spot. Okay, that finished line's looking good. Next thing we might do before we start doing the overlap stuff where we run into the finish line and win the game, I might put the enemy in. Well, the enemy is just that ball that bounces around up and down across the page there. So let's bring in another one of these set sprites up, and we're going to change it to a rename called obstacle. Press OK. Okay, and we're going to set that obstacle to a sprite from the gallery. You can choose whatever you want here. I chose this little bluey, pinky, yellowy coloured sphere, and the kind is going to be an enemy sprite. Okay. Next thing we'll do is set its position. So where's the position? Okay, we're going to set it on the x-axis about 75 across. The y value doesn't matter so much, so just make up a number, 10. So it's near the top of the page. That's where it will start. You'll see it bounce up there in a sec. Now it is a bit big, this ball, so I'm going to go to the sprites drawer, and at the very bottom again, just scale it down to about half its size, so 0.5 for the obstacle. Now I need to set that position to the obstacle as well. Just moving the shark there for a minute. There we go, that looks a bit better. So we've got our little obstacle now, a decent size and in its start position. Next thing we're going to do is get this ball moving, or this sphere moving. So in your sprites yet again, I'm going to get you to change this one where it says set my sprite x to 0. Change that x there to velocity y. Okay, that's basically the speed it's going to move along the y-axis. And if we set it to 50, I think when it previews it should start not moving just yet. Okay, will shortly. Next thing we will do is make sure it bounces on the walls too, so when it gets to the bottom it's not just going to fly out of the screen. Okay, we're just going to bring this one in, so set, oops, that's meant to say obstacle and obstacle. So just be careful there, I forgot to change those to begin with. You can see that the obstacle's moving there now. So we set its start position at the top of the page, we've scaled it down to half its original size, we've set its velocity on the y-axis to a speed of 50. You can slow that down by making the number smaller, so if I make it 25, it'll go about half the speed it was going. If you want, you can speed it up. Okay, it depends how challenging you want your game to be for your players, but you've got to make sure it's achievable. So I don't know if the fish and the shark will get past it at speed 100, so I think speed 50 is a decent challenge. And yeah, as I said, the obstacle must be able to bounce off the wall so it stays within our game screen. Okay, but that's our obstacle looking pretty sweet. Time to put in some overlaps now. So when we collide with either the obstacle or with the finish line, we need to make some things happen. Let's do the, we'll do this enemy or this obstacle since we're working with it now. So back in the sprites drawer, scroll down to where you've got the overlaps. And let's bring out the first one here that says on sprite of kind player. We're going to change it to P1. and when it overlaps with another sprite of kind enemy. That's what we're looking for there. What we will do is we're going to play a sound first of all. It's going to be in the background. I don't want the ba-ding sound. The one I'm looking for in this case, what we do, zapped I think is a good one. So let's go with playing sound zapped in the background. And while that sound is playing, we're going to move the fish back, or player one back, about 20 pixels. So just in your sprites there, you can change the fish's X value by -20. So it pushes it back 20 spaces. We are going to duplicate this now. Okay, it's going to be very similar. So instead of on sprite of kind P1, it's going to be P2. So player 2, when it collides with the enemy, we'll play the sound zapped in the background, and we're going to move the shark along the x-axis by -20. Okay, let's go and just give that a test run now. So we'll move the shark across to this obstacle. Let's get hit by it. Okay, the sound works and the shark went backwards. Let's try this fish now. Let's get him in firing line. He goes backwards too. Okay, perfect. So there's a little bit of a challenge there. Alright, so we are up to the last section now where we get this finish line working. So when the fish or the shark hit the finish line, we're just going to display a message about who our winner is. Okay, so I might come over to the side here and do this. Now, we'll do this in 2 stages. We'll do the, let's just do the shark first, and then we'll do the fish second. Okay, so to do this, we need to make a variable up first of all. That's actually going to go in this start section. So variables over here, I've mentioned it previously in videos, but I'll say it again. Variables are like buckets that hold information in our game. Okay, it's a way for the computer to remember something. Okay, so we're going to make up a variable here that will remember whether the game is over or not. Okay, so let's make a variable, and we can give it the name game over. We don't use spaces in our variable names. You can use underscores or just use a capital letter to separate the words. No spaces. Okay, and in this variables drawer, drag out just above that set background color. It's going to be the first thing in our on start here. We're going to set game over to, and we're going to choose from our logic here. I think we've got an option to put false. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so when our game starts, obviously game over is going to be set to false because the game is not over yet. Alright. From here, we can now come over to this side and start to do the proper coding to work out if the shark has hit the finish line. So we need to go into the game section here and do on game update. Okay, and we're going to use a bit of logic here. We're going to do an if then, or if true then statement. Okay, and first of all we need to check to see if the game over is equal to false. Because if it's over, well, if it's equal to true, it means the game's over. Okay, but while the game is not over, then we're going to perform a few actions. Okay, so we're going to need to go to logic here and bring out the equal sign. And we're going to go to variables and bring out this game over variable. So if game over equals, and back in logic, bring out false. Okay, so that means if we're still playing a game, then what do we need to do? Well, we're going to bring out another one of these if-then statements. Okay, now this is going to be a bit of a confusing one, but basically we're going to be checking if the shark touches the finish line. Now, by default, we're going to code it up. By default, the shark would need to run over the finish line, and halfway through the shark is when it would register that it's actually run over the finish line. But I actually want it to register when the shark's nose hits the finish line. Okay, so I have to do a little bit of a calculation to get this right. So I'm going to have to go to my maths section here and bring out the plus signs first of all. Okay, and in sprites, we're going to bring out my sprite X and change it to shark X. Okay, and it's going to say if the shark's X value plus, now this is where it gets a little bit confusing. We've got to bring out a divide, from the maths here, and drop that in the second section. Okay, and it's going to be the shark width. So go down to sprites and grab my sprite X and change it to shark and then look for width and divide that by 2. Okay, that's the fancy way of saying we're going to get the shark's nose and make sure when that hits the finish line, that's the end of the game. Not the middle of the shark's body, but the shark's nose. Okay, and we're going to see if that number is greater than the X value of the finish line. So we're going to have to go to the logic, get this less than symbol and change it to a greater than symbol. Move this into the first part. And we need to see if it is greater than the finish line's X value. So in sprites, grab my sprite X. Whoa, that didn't work how I wanted it to. And look for the finish X. Okay, so just look at the X value of the finish line. And if the shark's nose has gone past it, then we need to say that it is game over. I know that's very confusing, that bit. I don't expect you to understand it. It was a little bit of maths I had to do before making this video to work this out. So it's just a little bit complex. Don't stress if it doesn't make any sense. Just copy what I've got exactly. But when the shark's nose goes past the finish line, this is what we need to do. In variables, we're going to set game over to and make that true. So in logic, find that true statement down the bottom and put it over the 0. Okay, the next thing we'll do is play a sound. Just do this one here, and we'll do the power up sound and put it in the background. It's going to make it sound like somebody's won the game. And we are going to mention that the shark wins, because remember, this is the shark's nose hitting the finish line first. So in game here, we can use a message for when the shark wins, and we'll just put in capital letters, shark wins. And the last thing we'll do is finish the game. So game over, and display like some confetti coming out. That's why it's going to have the win there. Bit confusing, I know, but that's the code. Okay, well, I suppose we can probably give it a test run and see if it works. So I'm going to have to go with the right arrow here. I'm going to try and get past this little obstacle without getting hit by it. I know this is a bit slow, but just bear with me while we get through. Perfect. Okay, so you can see the confetti there. That's because we've got the win over on the right hand side here turned on. You can see the shark has won, so it's telling us the shark has won. Everything looks good. Let's do very similar now for the fish. So I'm just going to move that across a little bit more. And to do the fish, what we might do is press this plus sign here. It's going to say else. Might even make it an else if. So I'll press that twice. So it'll say else if. And let's just duplicate what we've got up here. So duplicate on all of that, and I'm going to drop it on top of the false. And instead of the shark, I'm going to make it the fish this time. Fish. Yeah. So if the X value of the fish plus the fish width divided by 2, that's just saying is if the nose of the fish is greater than the finish line's X value, then what do we need to do? So it's going to be pretty similar to this. So let's do a bit of duplicating. We'll duplicate the game over. We'll duplicate the sound. Remember to duplicate, I'm just right clicking my mouse on these. We'll duplicate the message, but just change it from shark wins to fish wins. And the last one there, just duplicate that game over. Okay, easy as that. Now this bottom section that says else, you can get rid of that now. So just hit the minus sign there, and that will get rid of it. And that should be our game complete. So let's give it a test run now with the fish, just to make sure that the fish can get through. We know the shark can finish the game. I was just testing that ball out to make sure it sent me back 20 spaces. Now I've just snuck past it there. Let's see if we can get this finish line with our fish's nose. Perfect. Okay, so that is our game complete. So I'll just zoom back here so you can see the majority of this code, and if you have any issues you can just come and pause it on this screen. I'm going to fit it all in. Just nudge it down a little bit. But that's it. I'm sure you can come up with some ways to make this game a little bit better as well by adding in maybe some more enemies. I don't know, you could add a timer in there as well so you can get the quickest time. There's all sorts of things you could add, but it is up to you what you add to it. But that will do us for this 2-player game. I will catch you blokes in the next video tutorial. I'll see you soon.